Good morning, everybody. MikesMMAPicks here with your Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown show brought to you by MMAOddsbreaker and BetDSI. We are here for UFC 272, where we have Colby Covington taking on Jorge Masvidal in what should be a heated grudge match at welterweight. Let's go. Let's unpack this card. We can start with the first fight of the evening, where we have Dustin Jacoby taking on Jacoby-Oleksiejczuk. Oleksiejczuk should be fighting down at middleweight. Let's be serious here. His entire career, he's been an undersized light heavyweight, and I really believe that he'd be best suited down a weight class, taking on a polished striker here in Dustin Jacoby, who is coming in at minus 190, which isn't that bad of a price. Only situation I'm concerned about is Oleksiejczuk does have dynamite in his hands, and if he's able to close distance, the Polish fighter could potentially land something that could put Jacoby's lights out. A few things, though. Larger octagon, bright lights, big city. Jacoby trains at altitude. I think if he minds his P's and Q's, stays at range, this is Jacoby's fight to win. So I'll be picking Dustin Jacoby to win the first fight of the evening. Next up, where we have the return of Ludovit Klein, who had a train run on him against Nate Landwehr. That was a disturbing trend of events to watch. Ludovit Klein, who was training out of Sanford MMA, gas out, get out grappled, and really have nothing left against Nate Landwehr. And we took an L in that spot. We know what we're dealing with here. On the other side of the fight, we've got Devontae Smith, who, by the way, this fight does take place at 155 pounds. Lightweight fight. We have Devontae Smith, who you can never erase that John Gunther loss off of your resume. And Devontae Smith, we know his chin continues to be an issue throughout his career. Jamie Mullarkey, the latest fighter to touch that chin and take him out of there. This line here has been closing. If you're able to get on Ludovit Klein earlier, may have been a good spot. I wouldn't go out of my way to lay money on Ludovit Klein. I think that the inside of the distance lines are worth it here in this spot. So be prepared to take a gander in that regard. Devontae Smith, more explosive, better athlete as far as I'm concerned, possibly better gas tank here, but the chin is the major quantifier that could be a difference maker here. So I'll be picking the underdog, Ludovit Klein, and I don't trust either of these fighters. I think there are better spots to put your money, but give me Ludovit Klein in that specific matchup. Now, we head to the flyweight division, where we have Elliott-Ulanbekov, who has been a victim of circumstance. He underperformed, had a big number behind him as a massive favorite in other bouts, Bruno Silva, etc. Taking on Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott coming in as a plus 180 underdog. Everybody loves to play Tim Elliott when he's a dog. He will definitely fight for your money, but the only thing about Tim Elliott is he will also give up. I don't want to necessarily say give up, but he will give up position. He will he will put himself in bad situations. He will tap out. We've seen him submitted a number of times. We've seen him basically throw the game plan out the window a number of times too. That the Oscar-Oskarov fight is a concern of mine. Watch him with his head tilted forward, walking straight into punches. Had that fight almost handily won at certain points. Granted, he was getting teed off on. I don't believe Ulanbekov is going to be a fighter who's going to come out here and start lighting Tim Elliott up on the feet. Ulanbekov's going to try to take this fight to the mat and control Tim Elliott. And I believe he's going to be able to do that, but he's going to have the Nurmagomedov team in his corner. He will, I know we're paying a Russian tax, so to speak, on Ulanbekov here. Tim Elliott is going to have the better gas tank. He's the more powerful fighter, more explosive fighter. He's going to come out here with James Krause in his corner, who, as we mentioned many times, can put a great game plan together for fighters. In his last fight, though, the Nicolau fight, that was a little disturbing to watch that play out, and he can't get that one back. And Ulanbekov here, I believe he's the higher skilled fighter, and he's not going to make a bonehead mistake like Elliott's made. Sometimes the wheels fall off mid-fight for Tim Elliott, and I expect that to happen here again. I'll be picking Ulanbekov in this flyweight matchup. Let's see what we got here in the chat. Good morning. Oh, Matthew, yes. Looking forward to the fights. Sporting the Bloodsport shirt. Yes, Ludovic Klein had a train run on him by Nate Landwehr. Nate Landwehr, by the way, has a big fight coming up. Check that one out. Let's continue this journey, my friends, where we have another Russian fighter here, Dagestani fighter, who's coming in as a massive favorite. Umar Nurmagomedov, minus 835 at the betting window, taking on Brian Kelleher. Brian Kelleher is, you look at, in my MMA betting seminar, we went through certain qualities of fighters that you'd love to see. And Brian Kelleher is one of those guys who will not give in on himself. He will fight hard for your money, tooth and nail. The Lineker fight, there have been others. Granted, he lost that fight, and there have been others, Chito Vera, where he was submitted, but traditionally Brian Kelleher will fight hard for your money. This fight is up at 145 pounds. We have Umar Nurmagomedov, who is an incredible, well-rounded, explosive fighter who is just very, very powerful here. And I believe that is what this fight is going to come down to. Nurmagomedov should be able to control Brian Kelleher in many aspects of the fight. Kelleher coming out here is going to have to land something explosive, something potentially fight-ending to take Nurmagomedov out of here, because if he doesn't, Nurmagomedov, his pressure, his pace is a real problem, and we've seen it on his come up into the UFC. I believe Nurmagomedov is the real deal. I think Kelleher is in a tough spot in this matchup, especially. I mean, you look at the betting odds, but then you look at the way he fights too. Kelleher is he's a dog, man. So if this fight gets extended, the beginning of the rounds is going to be where Kelleher should shine. I'll be pulling for Brian Kelleher, but I'll be picking Nurmagomedov and Kelleher. It's just a matter of when does this fight end? You know, is it going to end inside the distance? I think that there is potential that it does, and you're looking at close to evens here for somebody who has a massive edge at the or massive line behind them. So if you're playing Nurmagomedov, take a look at the inside the distance line. I'll be picking Nurmagomedov to win. Next up, where we have Marina Moroz taking on Maria Agapova. Agapova coming in as a minus 185 betting favorite here. Both of these fighters, this is a grudge match. Moroz. If you want to watch a fight that will put you to sleep, watch Marina Moroz taking on Danielle Taylor. Danielle Taylor, she has gone from the promotion. It was a while ago, but it just goes to show you that at range, Moroz occasionally will not extend herself in the striking game and commit to her strikes. She'll sit at range and jab away. And in this spot, Agapova, in the interviews that I've watched in the lead up to this matchup, seems like she is going to be composed and will stick to her game plan. But I don't trust Maria Agapova to do what she says she's going to do. We saw the Shanna Dobson fight and how she, with the ATT cornering, now she, I believe, is at ATT Sunrise, but she was at the main gym and came in, burnt herself out in the lead up to the fight in the training room, in the back room as she's warming up to the bout. She could have won that fight handily, but put herself in a really, really tough spot. So I don't trust Agapova. Am I going to pick her to win in this spot? I believe I will, because Moroz, although she is the more polished, refined fighter, more well-rounded fighter, Agapova is still developing, only 24 years of age, is a fighter who has the potential to end the fight. And Moroz, she's going to be reliant on Agapova to make some bonehead big mistake during the fight and capitalize on that. But I don't see that happening here. I think Agapova is the side, and the line is closing. I wouldn't go out of my way to play Agapova. It's money line. I think she's worth a play in DraftKings, but I'll be picking Agapova in this matchup. The Ukrainian narrative here is going to be all over the place, and I think that people are buying into that. So give me Agapova, but she could potentially come out here and make a bonehead mistake like she's done many, many times before. Wow. All right. Talk about another low-level fight here where we have Kennedy Nzechukwu. Nzechukwu coming in as a minus 145 betting favorite. This line has closed as well, taking on Negumereanu, coming in, the Romanian fighter, the wrestler, who is coming off of a victory over Ike Villanueva. What can you say? What can you say about this fighter? He will move forward. He will take punches. He will hang in there, and it's just a matter of persevering to the final bell. Nzechukwu is a fighter out of Fortis MMA who is outmatched in many facets of the game. Is an athlete who has some raw talent, but this is a fighter who is closing in on 30 years of age. This is someone who should be more of a finished product at this stage in the game. Fortis MMA has been trying to mold him for quite some time, and I don't trust Kennedy in this matchup. I think there are better lines on this card. Negumereanu is a fighter who, at 27 years of age, is still developing. He could potentially get knocked out, but we've seen he's a fighter who will take punishment to get close to his opponent and take this fight to the mat. And I see that is the potential path to victory for Negumereanu. I'll be picking the underdog in this matchup. Good morning, Stephen. Thank you, sir. Yes. Paying homage to RDA's entrance to the octagon today. And we also have another fighter who fights reminiscent to Paco from the movie Bloodsport, where we have the next fight up, Marina Rodriguez, with her Muay Thai fighting, taking on Yan Xiaonan. Yan Xiaonan coming off of the loss to Carla Esparza, where she really didn't have a shot to get her game going, was taken down and completely stifled. And in this spot, both fighters are going to have a chance to shine here, where we have Marina Rodriguez coming in now as a minus 265 betting favorite, taking on Yan Xiaonan as a plus 215 underdog. This line is wide as far as I'm concerned. Marina Rodriguez is going to look to land her strikes and potentially get into a clinch exchange where she's going to try to land hellacious elbows, knees up the middle. Yan Xiaonan should be on her bicycle, evading, getting in, getting out, and landing her own strikes. Rodriguez is getting up there in age. That's a concern of mine. Although Yan Xiaonan was stifled last time out, she should have the opportunity to land at range here. But I believe Marina Rodriguez is going to be landing the more impactful strikes, and they will be the difference maker down the stretch. I think that Rodriguez is the tougher fighter here, and sometimes in women's mixed martial arts, it does come down to that, sadly. But I will say, Rodriguez is a high level striker, and she's able to, as we've seen in the Mackenzie Dern fight and others, she will fight hard for your money. And I think that that's what she's going to do here. She's going to put her game face on and come out, and she's going to bring the violence. So give me Marina Rodriguez. Yan Xiaonan, though, I could see her making this fight closer than expected. Next up, wow, we have the Tarantula, Jalen Turner, coming in as a minus 150 betting favorite, taking on Jamie Mullarkey in what should be a very violent fight. Jamie Mullarkey is a fighter who has trained with Alex Volkanovski, and this is a fighter who has made the most of his God-given abilities and is somebody who is going to give you everything that they have every time out. He's an overachiever, I believe, in my eyes, Jamie Mullarkey. And last time out, he looked great against Devonta Smith. And in this spot, he could pose Jalen Turner some real fits here, though. Jalen Turner is a bit of a specimen. He's got tremendous length, has a jiu-jitsu game to be that Jamie Mullarkey is going to have to be concerned about, especially if this fight hits the mat. Mullarkey, another fight that I really enjoyed was the Brad Riddell, Jamie Mullarkey fight. If you get the chance, go back and watch that fight. Mullarkey will not give in. He's somebody who will fight to the bitter end, and he will take big damage to get where he needs to in fights. Now, Turner is still developing, still a young fighter. Turner, I mean, this is a fighter who's had his lights shut off many times as well. So you have a fighter in Mullarkey who has taken some big time losses too. I believe he has a fight against a former champ, or the champ as well, on the regional scene, where he was blown out of the water. So both of these guys have been sparked out, and I'm tempted to roll with the underdog here. In fact, I'll be picking Mullarkey in this spot. Think that he has really turned a corner here, and I understand that this line should be a little bit closer than it is. So I'll be picking Jamie Mullarkey in this matchup. Let's see, we've got another fight coming up here where we have, oh my goodness gracious, Greg Hardy, who's back again after the knockout loss to Tai Tuivasa, coming in as a plus 155 underdog. He was humbled in his last bout, taking on Sergey Spivak, who has the potential to ground Hardy, but Hardy's a physical specimen. That's one thing that I mean, the guy's an NFL All-Pro football player who is going to be tough to take down early. Spivak is going to have to grind here, but he has to be careful because Greg Hardy does possess fight-ending power, and Hardy, I'm interested to see what type of game plan he tries to implement coming off of a knockout loss. Is he going to be more patient out there? Is he going to be worried about getting knocked out? Because when that happens to fighters, if coming off of a knockout loss, this is something to pay attention to when you're handicapping fights. When fighters come back from knockout losses, they tend to be more cautious. And I'm wondering if Hardy is going to, in the larger octagon, try to use his distance management and use his jab to stay at range. Initially, I was tempted to play that this fight doesn't go the distance, but this fight could take a little bit longer to get to the mat and to finish. Spivak is a tough dude who is going to try to. He was in there against Olenek and was working hard to get the submission and grind Olenek out. Couldn't get it done. Hardy does not really have any type of submission defense. So if Hardy's put on his back, and when that does happen, I expect Spivak to try to end this fight. And I think that he will. Hardy will probably gas out in the second or third round, and that's when Spivak will have his opportunities. At some point, I see Hardy getting put on his back and then submitted. Let's see. Ball and Brown says, I hate to say it, but I think Hardy has this one in the bag. Should be able to find an early KO. That's a possibility. You're dealing with a fighter who, at heavyweight, anybody gets touched on the button and they could potentially go out. He had Tuivasa on the ropes. We can't forget that. He was basically one strike away from ending that fight, and then got over aggressive and caught. So that's a possibility. But I'll be picking Spivak here. I think this is a pretty volatile heavyweight matchup. Next up, where we have, we have, hang on one second. Spivak took Tai Tuivasa down 6 times. Yeah. But Tuivasa also doesn't have much takedown defense as well. So I will be picking Spivak in that matchup. Next up, where we have Kevin Holland taking on Alex-Oliveira. So this line originally at certain books was hovering around minus 225 for a while, and now has been bet all the way up to minus 350 for Kevin Holland. Down at welterweight, we saw Kevin Holland make weight here, which is great. And both of these fighters look very similar on the scales. Alex-Oliveira has many, many more miles on his odometer. Oliveira plus 260 underdog in this spot. Oliveira is going to be dangerous early. We've seen the shovel uppercut, the ground game initially. He has the potential to ground Kevin Holland here and put him in a precarious situation on the mat, but at what cost? And I tweeted this out a few days ago. At what cost is Alex-Oliveira going to implement a game plan where he's exerting a lot of energy? Kevin Holland, I believe, is going to have his time to shine here on the feet the longer this goes. Something I've been very impressed with from Kevin Holland is his defensive striking ability. He is very evasive on the feet, and I think that's going to pay dividends against Alex-Oliveira the longer this goes. I believe Kevin Holland, and don't sleep on his submission game as well. Take a look at Kevin Holland by submission. Also, I don't believe this fight is going to end going to the scorecards. I think this fight will end inside the distance. Kevin Holland is going to be the pick here, and I think that this could be the end of Alex-Oliveira. I think that the second or third round, we should see Alex-Oliveira start to really fall off of a cliff, and it didn't happen in the Nico Price fight until the end of the bout. But Nico Price and Kevin Holland are very different fighters, and actually that would be an interesting matchup. But I'll be picking Kevin Holland in that spot, and props to those who were able to get in on him in the minus 220s. Next up, wow, this is one of my favorite fights of the night, where we have Bryce Mitchell taking on a decorated striker in Edson Barboza, who's fought the who's who, has a tremendous resume. Barboza is a fighter who he will fight hard for your money. We took an L last time out backing Edson Barboza against Giga Chikadze, and this is a very, very different stylistic matchup. Barboza should have a tremendous advantage on the feet, like light years worth of an advantage on the feet against Bryce Mitchell. The problem is, though, Barboza tends to, if he starts getting backed up or he feels any sense of pressure, he's going to get on his he looks like a gazelle trying to get around the octagon, backing up, and he's going to look to land those knees like he did on Benny Dariush. He's going to look to land body kicks, and he's going to look to chop down Bryce Mitchell as quickly as he can, because any opportunity Bryce Mitchell gets, he'll take this fight to the mat. In the larger octagon, he's got his work cut out for him. Prior to doing the tape here and prior to really investigating this matchup, I was leaning pretty heavily towards Edson Barboza. I was like, wow, man, how is Bryce Mitchell going to deal with the striking of Barboza? He doesn't have, we haven't seen necessarily him able to take big punches on the feet and kicks, and I haven't seen his guard is still, it's yet to be determined, because he's put fights in his world, and that's something that he has the ability to do. I believe that Mitchell has he's got the cardio edge here. He has a grappling edge here, and it's a pretty, as they say, a tale of two fights. You have either Barboza coming in and taking Mitchell out. I believe the inside the distance line on Barboza is a better play than to play him to play his money line, because if Mitchell survives, he's going to take Barboza down, and Barboza is likely not getting back up. And I do see Barboza getting cooked to the bone, so to speak, the longer this fight goes. I agree. It's a challenging matchup for Bryce Mitchell. So here's one thing I've noticed, and the Andre Fili fight, the Rosa fight, etc. Mitchell will sell out right off the bat to commit to grappling, and that's something that I believe is going to happen in this matchup. I think he's going to come right across the octagon and come right after Edson, and that's where this fight should get very interesting. I have faith actually in Bryce Mitchell, although you looked at the weigh-ins and he looks like he looked like he shouldn't be there, but that's not how we line this game. We don't put all of our eggs in the basket when it comes to watching the weigh-ins. There are many other variables here, and if Bryce Mitchell is able to take Edson Barboza down, which I believe at some point he will, then the fight should stay there. And I'll be picking Bryce Mitchell here, but I'm not ruling out Edson Barboza landing some hellacious strikes and taking Bryce Mitchell out of there. That's always a possibility, but I have faith that Bryce Mitchell, he's got pretty high fight IQ when he's in there. And once he's on you, to peel Bryce Mitchell off of you, Edson Barboza shouldn't be able to do that, especially if this fight hits the ground. So give me Bryce Mitchell in that matchup. But I don't hate on folks taking the shot on the underdog there. Now, here's one of the reasons we came here today is Rafael dos Anjos taking on Renato Moicano. Renato Moicano, cheers to you, my brother, taking this fight on short notice at 160 pounds, catch weight. Moicano came in looking as the larger fighter, the taller fighter on the scales, was not nearly as cut up. Looked like he had to lose a lot of weight to get back in there. And I mean, he took the fight on just a few days' notice here. One of my favorite fighters on the roster, Renato-Moicano, who, as we've seen in the Jai Herbert fight and also in the Alex Hernandez fight, will, if he commits to a grappling heavy game plan, he has an edge in a lot of fights. But that also, as we mentioned with Alex Oliveira, comes at a cost. And traditionally, Moicano has fought at distance. The Jeremy Stevens fight, there have been many others where he's fought well at distance, uses his range fighting. He's fighting Rafael dos Anjos, who was training for Islam Makhachev, a full camp, and Dos Anjos looks in the best shape of his life. It's incredible at his age, the amount of miles on his odometer, how he's able to stay in great shape. And he's been through the meat grinder at both welterweight and lightweight. So interesting matchup here. I will say this. I don't expect this fight to go the distance because Dos Anjos is a southpaw, high-pressure fighter, and Moicano is going to have to be explosive in this fight. I don't think he's going to be able to stay at range for extended periods of time. Dos Anjos won't let him stay at range. Both of these fighters should engage in the grappling, and I think that is going to come at a significant cost to Moicano's gas tank. Moicano has the ability to land some uppercuts on Dos Anjos, who's starting to show some wear and tear. As far as the striking goes, he's been, I go back to the Tony Ferguson fight at altitude. Ferguson was lighting Dos Anjos up for extended periods of time. And people say that Dos Anjos had a horrible weight cut for that fight. That may have been an issue. And then he ended up going up to 170 after he lost his belt to Alvarez. So Dos Anjos, a tough guy to finish. Moicano, I think you give Moicano a full camp, and then he becomes a favorite in this spot. But short notice, catch weight, and also what we've seen out of Moicano with his energy exertion, he looked. The Jai Herbert fight looked like he was, although he dominated that fight, I have concerns about his gas tank there. And also the Alex Hernandez fight, the end of the first round, he was huffing and puffing. And I think that's going to happen here. I think Moicano has the ability to end this fight inside the distance, but I think the longer this fight goes, Dos Anjos should wear on Moicano, and the grappling, the longer this fight goes, should be in Rafael Dos Anjos' favor. I'll be picking Rafael Dos Anjos in this matchup. And I think that he is, I think, the fight doesn't go the distance. It's hovering at minus 112, minus 120 at some books. I think that is worth the play here. And also the Southpaw versus Orthodox is an interesting dynamic too, with no time to prepare for the fight. RDA is going to sleep him, they say. Let's see. I believe that is a possibility. I think this fight does end inside the distance. I think that the submission may be there for Dos Anjos or the TKO stoppage. But give me Rafael Dos Anjos in that matchup. Now, let's get to the main event of the evening, where we have Colby Covington taking on Jorge Masvidal, and 5 rounds. Question is it going to hit the scorecards? A lot of folks think it is. I wouldn't jump to that conclusion yet, because you watch the weigh-ins, you watch the lead up to the fight. There's tremendous animosity. Masvidal, the second to last fighter to the scale. Masvidal coming in as a plus 260 underdog here against Colby Covington, who's sitting at minus 340. Now, this line opened up in minus 190s at some places and has been bet up to minus 340. Covington, as we've seen in previous fights, he has the ability to slow roast opponents and has a tremendous grappling edge. That is going to be in play here. Masvidal is going to have to land something explosive in the beginning of the rounds to take Covington out of there. If he's unable to do so, I'm not a narrative guy or a conspiracy theorist, but I was thinking that Masvidal might look for a way out of this fight in the lead up to the bout, considering he's outmatched in many facets of this particular bout. He is the smaller fighter who is going to be at a big disadvantage as far as gas tank goes, as far as strength goes, as far as grappling ability goes. And he does not do well when he's pressured. We've seen Damian Maia take him down and basically just control him for extended periods of time. Now, Covington is not that type of fighter as far as a submission ace goes, but he can grind on you and rinse and repeat. We talk about mat returns. I'm the over-under on mat returns here for Covington. I'm going to think it's at least 7, possibly more. I mean, maybe between, I would say 10 mat returns here for Covington to take Masvidal down and just rinse and repeat and drag this into deep water to a point where if Jorge Masvidal is unable to land a fight-ending strike, I think Covington really has a legitimate shot at TKOing Jorge Masvidal late. I know he doesn't have many TKOs on his resume, and last time out against Tyron Woodley, we saw Covington basically that finish was there to be had. Also, Tyron Woodley had a very limited gas tank, and the writing was on the wall. He was getting completely manhandled and ragdolled out there, and I think that's going to happen in this spot here. I understand folks taking the shot on Masvidal inside the distance or the knockout line. That's something if you want to hedge, that's a play. I'll be picking Colby Covington here to get this done, and I would not be surprised to see him win this fight via TKO late. Covington, first fighter to the scale, is in phenomenal shape, and also there are arguments to be made that Colby Covington was on the verge of winning that fight against Kamaru Usman. Both of these fighters have mutual opponents here, and I think that Covington is I believe he's an incredible fighter. I got to be honest, he's somebody who he's shown a chin. I don't want to see him standing up at range against Masvidal for any length of time, but if he has been at range, he's shown that he's capable of not being on the other side of a fight-ending strike throughout the entirety of his career. He went 10 rounds with Usman, and he's been in there with Woodley. Granted, Woodley did not pull the trigger. Masvidal will try to pull the trigger, and it's going to be up to Covington to stifle him. And I'll be picking Colby Covington to win, and I wouldn't go out of my way to be playing the Covington by decision line, because in my eyes, he has the ability here to stop Masvidal late. Masvidal is getting up there in age. Both of these fighters are, but you look at the wear and tear on Masvidal at his age, second to last fighter to the scales, living in the silk sheets now. I'll be picking Colby Covington to win. I think that he gets this done, and I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think that he gets it done inside the distance. Want to thank everybody for tuning in today on this beautiful fight morning as we prepare for UFC 272. Go get what's yours, my friends. We have a number of plays up at MMAOddsbreaker Premium. Got in on some tremendous line value, and We've solidified a lot of line value on a number of the plays. So as far as the existing subscribers go, thank you for that. And let's continue this journey, my friends. There are many opportunities ahead. Got to pick your spots and make the most of this time. Let's go. Let's go. UFC 272. Go get what's yours, my friends.